Hello, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh, and Salam Ramadan to all of my students. So today we're gonna start to discuss about chapter 4. It is about the Southeast Asia security upheaval. It means we're gonna look at uh, the 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 formations and also the security influence that happened in Southeast Asia, and then we're gonna touch about the early formations of ASEAN, and we gonna talk about what actually being brought out. Is it the ASEAN organization is just an informal, a normal groups like others organizations, or ASEAN is keen, to take care of security and promote peace as well as create good economic conditions in towards the member. Okay, so let's start. Uh, this is the outline. So the concept of security. We're going to touch a bit in terms of security. We're going to see what is actually cooperative security, as well as collective securities. Then we're going to look on ASEAN way, how actually ASEAN play its vital role in dealing with three main issues. For example, the first is the alignment of ASEAN member. Starting from 1967, only 5 members or state that involved in ASEAN, and then it became increasing until end of the 19th. And it is important. Is it what actually brought out the enlargement of ASEAN, and why the enlargement of ASEAN is so important to the ASEAN itself. Then we're gonna see about the crisis that actually affected most of the ASEAN state, and till now, still we affected. For example, haze crisis, smoke, transport, the pollutions from Indonesia that affected throughout the neighbor in ASEAN, for example, Malaysia, Thailand, and also Singapore. And then we gonna see what actually ASEAN did with their purpose as an buffer. Buffer means pelindung, as an buffer state, buffer organization throughout the members, and while most of ASEAN having financial crisis in 1997-98. Then conclusion. Okay, the concept of security here in terms related with the ASEANs, we're going to touch on two main element in security. For example, first is the cooperative security, and then the next will be the comprehensive security. So cooperative security, according to David, so it is a multi-dimensional in scope and also gradualist in temperament. So it recognizes the importance of consensus and the consolidations, and also emphasize on the issue rather than deterrence, inclusive rather than exclusive, favor multilateralism over bilateralism. So cooperative security, it means, for example, it's like ASEAN. If you are bound to the organizations, so you also bound in the organization rules and regulations. You already bound with the visions and also the strategy of the organization itself. So it means cooperative security. It means it's about the non-state actor implementations towards protecting the security itself. For example, if you join UN, why you join UN? Because you want to become a safe state. So you want to prohibit that any external threats or might affected you. So that's why the purpose of an international organization itself, and that's why cooperative security favors multilateralism. Multilateralism means it's a group lah, more than two state. So for example, in ASEAN, yeah, we focus on cooperative security. For example, in TAC also mentioned about the our members, the principle of members, to take care of members itself, to prohibit any external threats towards South Asia. So one of the strategy is all of the state need to get their own initiative as part as an ASEAN member to protect the security. Okay, for example, it is a team, team effort, in terms of to take care of the security. So next, it does not privilege military solutions to security problem. For example, not every security issue might settle by having war. A lot of things that could occur. Not restrictive in memberships except non-state actor. Yeah, IGO is a non-state actor. For example, organization is non-state actor, and more trying to settle all the dispute in the consultations. And for example, having a dialogue is important through the cooperative security. For example, in ASEAN, we have ASEAN Regional Forum, ARF, that actually discuss and also and embrace about the issues and also things that problem that occurs in ASEAN, and also see the world in regular perspective. For example, world are more cooperations, interdependence, and also conflict are interviewable. Okay, interviewable means conflict each conflict should can be settled in a good way without having any dispute or war. Okay, cooperative security recognize the value of existing bilateral and also balance of power in the regional security. So it's relevant to Southeast Asia, where defense and also external security policy will manage bilateral or not multilateral. For example, we are for example ASEAN itself. It is a multilateral cooperations, and also it relevant where defense and also security policy that ASEAN manage will benefit to all the members. Okay, and ASEAN also sees that Southeast Asia is a one biggest union. Okay, so they have concept called one ASEAN, one Southeast Asia. So since the settlement of the Cambodia conflict, so remember, later on the next slide we're going to touch on Cambodia conflict a bit. It is about conflict between Cambodia and Vietnam when Vietnam became communist state, and then Khmer Rouge rules Cambodia, and on the 70s, and Vietnam feels that it is not right, and Vietnam go and invade Cambodia until 1993, 1994. Cambodia get their own release from Vietnam. So it is the biggest issues. And then starting from that, ASEAN had a vital role in promote one Southeast Asia. It means if you are in Southeast Asia, we are live and we protect ourselves. We are as one. After the end of Cold War, so cooperative security, it is a more more developed. Okay, before that, not much any cooperative securities being implemented. Okay, for example, ARF. Okay, 1994. Starting after the Cold War and the functions of multilateral security forum is actually to find any solutions, to discuss about the dispute that occurs, and try to find a good way solutions to end or make the conflicts settle. Okay, today all Southeast Asia members commit to cooperative security based on the following principle. One, all participants have to accept the peace is invisible. with a forward of shares responsibility, and also cooperative security can be promoted. Two, a desire to view security in comprehensive terms. Comprehensive means menyeluruh. For example, comprehensive, not focusing on issues. For example, in Southeast Asia, we have terrorism issues. Okay, so our strategy only to combat terrorism. No, it is as inclusive all. Okay, all of the thing. That's why we call it comprehensive. Commitment to the principle of mutual and also equal security can be assured by respecting for the territorial integrity of all states, non-interference policy. This is main policy to Southeast Asia that actually reflect what Southeast Asia are now, and oppositions to any attempts to subvert national integrity and also uh, to subvert national sovereignty. Okay, so this is about the cooperative security lah. So next, we're going to move on comprehensive security. So just now I mentioned about comprehensive security. It is about you know uh, protect the security by any means by the state. Not only Malaysia have to taking care of Southeast Asia as well as Thailand, Indonesia, Brunei, and Philippines. All of the Southeast Asian nations, they have to take the responsible to taking care of the South China Sea. So, comprehensive security means that it is important to non-military means. Okay, for example, we try to avoid any dispute ending by war. Okay, so in word looking, maybe the ethnic play a vital role, culture, no race difference. So, for example, in protecting South China Sea, Philippines is located there, as well as Sabah and Sarawak, which include Malaysia, Brunei, Vietnam itself, Cambodia, and it actually brings, one of the dilemma. Okay, how actually we wanted to taking care of South China Sea, because in South China Sea itself, it has much more, much more than thousands island, remote island that were being lived by the piracy, and also the subversive people, terrorism involved, and it is hard for us to take care. For example, Malaysia itself, okay, play a big role in, for example, in organize, the ESCOM, for example, to combat terrorism. So yeah, it is very hard. So we need support from Thailand and from Philippines as well as Brunei, while Vietnam to protect the South China Sea. And also the emerge of China, in South China Sea is one of the biggest problem dilemma nowadays. For example, you know, uh, and it actually is a serious concern in terms of ASEAN. While this Chinese, try to interrupt and also try to expand their imperialism towards South China Sea. So there's the biggest dilemma, and ASEAN itself, have to play a comprehensive role in trying to protect the security and creating peace in Southeast Asia and maintaining peace in Southeast Asia. Okay, and it is also important for political stability. Comprehensive security seeks to promote national resilience, national building. For example, in Malaysia we have HANRO. HANRO means total defense. Not only the security is not only rely, you not rely on the military to protect security. Everybody of the state need to play a vital role in protect the security. For example, you don't smuggle things, don't smuggle any immigrant. So this is the values the comprehensive security brought out. Okay, and domestic security being linked to external security. Okay, and so external security, if you have a good as in terms of security, you can avoid external security. For example, the intruders, the threat, external threats, and that will affect your state. Okay, next. Comprehensive security was defined in Council for Security Cooperation in Asia Pacific. Okay, the pursuit of sustainable security in all fields, multidimensional, for example, like politics, economy, social culture, military environment. So both the domestic and also the external sphere are part of security through cooperation means. So any of these factors affected in secure. If anything that affected to all the factors, so your state will affected in security lah. And even where there is no overt internal external political violence, straight for violence. Okay. So we want to look a bit on the ASEAN way. Okay. So is it rhetoric or reality? So one is the first is will be the expansions of ASEAN member. A lot of scholars says that ASEAN will not actually competitive with other organization that actually live in the international system, for example EU, African Union, because ASEAN is too small, uh, and most of the state in ASEAN, they don't portray same political system, so it is difficult to ASEAN to encourage all the member in Southeast Asia to join ASEAN in the early formations. For example, Lionel Watby argued that the expansions of ASEAN membership place pressure on the group, for example, traditional on consensus and also solidarity. For example, the CLV state, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, and also Myanmar, previously were not actually uh, eager to join ASEAN. They feel that ASEAN is one of the Western bloc that trying to create a new bloc in South Asia while Cold War during the Cold War period. And for example, in ASEAN itself, different interests of mainland, maritime, for example, and it's also a biggest issues. For example, Malaysia, yeah, you can be part. You have land and also water to protect. For example, like Laos don't have any. They are not actually located in throughout the oceans, but yet that actually different interests make them feel that they have different interests in terms of protecting their own state. Okay, and also our biggest concern about the huge gap between the high income state and low income state in Southeast Asia. The polar of state income of the state is very different because we have the less developed state LSC. Okay, for example, Laos, Cambodia, that still need to be support by the others, and it actually also reflect to the concept of security. If you are low income state, for sure that it's hard for you to develop capabilities to protect the security. So this is main concern lah. And the objections of Myanmar by Western countries, by Eastern countries, says that Myanmar, during the 80s, 90s, Myanmar is a military regime that actually not being favored by the Western. Okay, and also dispute manage will not be as effective as before. So need to deal with LIC. This is very uh, biggest problematic that the ASEAN have to face. This is non-English speaking, so it's hard for ASEAN to communicate and also to deal with the LIC. And but alhamdulillah, all of the state agreed to join ASEAN and managed to trying to overcome all the Western's critics about ASEAN's. Okay, and 1991, we are having after ASEAN Free Trade Area, so it is the biggest impact to Southeast Asia. How actually Saudi Asia wanted to help their own member, in ASEAN, and how actually ASEAN play a vital role in helping the less developed state, the LSCV, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Myanmar. Okay, and enlargement of ASEAN, so it is rise for even greater problems that those for which intend to provide a solution. If you enlarge your membership, so a lot of problem will come over. So it is hard for us to actually try to overcome all the dispute that were bring by the new member state. Okay, the minor side of expansion. First, you don't have common threats. Okay, no common threats. In ASEAN, so when you become one organization, for example, you can actually, it's like friends lah. You don't have any common threats in Southeast Asia itself. For example, Malaysia and Singapore, although we have a security dispute, but yet in terms of ASEAN, we are actually trying to minimize. Okay, try to settle the dispute in a peaceful way. And consensus, more, and also plus leader. Yeah, everything's in terms of dispute will being settled by the consensus. We have ASEAN Summit, we have ASEAN Regional Forum that play a vital role in trying to overcome the dispute, the development gap, different political system. It also impact, in the formation of ASEAN, different strategic perception. And also in ASEAN itself, we have economic gain, the intra-ASEAN rivalry. For example, Singapore are much more good in economy, so Malaysia will try to compete with Singapore. And also, it's a minor sides of an expansion. Okay, this is the Myanmar problem. Okay, the expansions of ASEAN's member. So challenge to ASEAN norms of non-interference. For example, that issues happening in Myanmar, the junta military, the crisis that happened in ASEAN itself, in Myanmar itself, it is very crucial on that period, and being criticized by the Western, trying to bring back the democracy in Myanmar, and it is challenges to ASEAN norms and also non-interference policy, because we cannot do anything. For example, issue in Rohingya is the biggest issue right now, for example. So if you look at Rohingya itself, only Malaysia play a vital role in trying to give assistance to the immigrant, by giving a shelter. But yet, it also affected our Malaysian's policy as well as our security. But if you look at the others of the member in ASEAN, so they're trying to avoid these issues. Okay, even in Myanmar itself, until now, Malaysia trying to increase a lot of raising a lot of concern in ASEAN summit, regardless on Rohingya issue. Until now, still, it's very hard for us to get a solutions towards this issue because of our norms in ASEAN, the non-interference policy, which reflect that all of the Southeast Asian member cannot interfere in the internal problems in every state. But if you look at the Rohingya cases, it's not an internal not an internal conflict of the state itself. and also it also brings a lot of problems to Malaysia. So it is not considered as in, we Malaysians are trying to interfere their internal conflict. This norm uh, is a fragile norm, non-interference policy. We also respect, for example, in the ASEAN organization, we respect that 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 every state have their own barrier, okay, for us to intervene, but yet got some issues that were challenged by the ASEAN. For example, that can actually, we cannot just look and see, and we didn't know, we don't react, or we don't trying to give assistance in the previously, for example, the political system issues, in terms of junta and democracy, that one we cannot interfere, because it is an internal problematic that in the Myanmar state itself. So if let's say we involve it, we might violate the ASEAN norms. Okay, and the constructive engagement are quite cautious without public segment to save place. So constructive engagement means uh, in ASEAN itself, we have to be careful in giving some statement in public. For example, if let's say in terms of Myanmar issues, we cannot actually criticize to save face, for example. But it different when I compare two issues. First issues, uh, the political issues in Myanmar. Second, the Rohingya issues. It is very far different. For political issue, yes, we cannot interfere, and it is norms if we interfere in terms of political system of the state. And then we're trying to avoid and also doing a lot of public statement towards issues that happen in terms of political issue in Myanmar. But yet, when it comes to Rohingya issue, it's not an internal issue. If let's say the crisis of Rohingya happened in the Myanmar and did not spread any, the issues did not spread towards the member of the state, yeah, it should be uh, an internal issues. But yet, if right now, what is happening in Southeast Asia or ASEAN, for example, member of ASEAN, the internal issue has become external issue. Okay, the Myanmar have migrated, staying in Malaysia and also create problem in Malaysia. So it actually affected. It's not the internal issue anymore. It is a external issue that Malaysia have the rights to raise out the issues, to give a lot of statement, stress out in ASEAN, asking for all of the member ASEAN to unite and also overcome this issue. Okay, two different issue. You have to look at two different angle. Okay, this is about the formations of ASEAN and the Myanmar issues. Okay, when Myanmar joined ASEAN and most of the Western feels that this is not right, so they asked ASEAN to kick out Myanmar because of Myanmar adopt the political regime, and they actually feels that Myanmar should be a democracy state because of Aung San Suu Kyi issues. But yet we have our own right in ASEAN because we adopt the norms of no-intervention policy. We don't taking care of internal problem in the member state, except if they allow us, they ask us to give advice, or they ask us to interfere. For example, issues in Philippines, when biggest issues that happen with the governments of Philippines and MILF, Moro Islamic Liberation Fund, that actually uh, Philippines can't do anything to settle the issues, and Philippines invite Malaysia to help them to settle the dispute. This dispute already occurs more than 100 years. But Alhamdulillah, being settled by Malaysia as a mediator, and they get a peace agreement between MILF and also the government of the Philippines, and creating the autonomous regions of Bangsamoro in the Mindanao. Okay, why ASEAN finally include Myanmar? First, the desire for one Southeast Asia, as I mentioned in previous slide, and ASEAN fear of China influence on Myanmar because China shares border with Myanmar. So if we don't actually trying to push Myanmar to become member of ASEAN, it is one of the biggest kerugian lah, okay, biggest loss to us, okay. So this is one of the reason why ASEAN invited Myanmar, and ASEAN state poor human right record, okay. So 1997 ASEAN 33rd 30th anniversary. So ASEAN try to overcome the issues of human rights, all of things that while asking them to join. And also we have economic interest. For example, in when enlargement of ASEAN is it actually bring a new impact of a new market in economic system. So we can penetrate Myanmar market is a big scale, and also Myanmar is still less developed state and need to get a lot of assistance. So this is one of the reason why we are eager enough to ask Myanmar to be part of ASEAN, so we can actually generate a good multilateral relationship in terms of economy. And then it resulted in a strained relation with EU, and also an eroding norm. So this is what is some of the reason why we finally include Myanmar. Okay, the Cambodia entry problem. So this is also we are having problem in terms of inviting Cambodia to be part of Southeast Asia. So because on 1993, after 2 p.m. after 1993 election, Han Sen and also Ra, Ranarit, okay, and internal issues also happen in Cambodia after the Cambodia being released by the Vietnam, and a lot of military coup happened, and then 1997 Han Sen started a military coup over Narian governments, so it actually delays the membership of Cambodia entering Myanmar. So we cannot do anything because of non-interference policy, but yet we're trying to give a help in terms of mediating and also give some consultations. Malaysia as a constructive interventions, okay, for support assistance with the concerns, okay, to try to overcome their internal issues, political issues in the Cambodia, and then the issue settled and Cambodia being part of ASEAN. Okay, ASEAN engagement with China. Okay, ASEAN engagement with China. It is an cooperating China into ASEAN regional agreement. Southeast Asia country and China diplomatic relations, we don't have any positive relation record. And then we're trying to get a constructive engagement between ASEAN and also China because of security issues. China had a lot of creating a lot of security problem in South China Sea, which actually affected most of the ASEAN state. So China has claimed the islands of Reef in the South China Sea and also several ASEAN states. So the especially issues, biggest concern in South China Sea in ASEAN itself. We're trying to avoid to minimize the issues by asking China to be part of ASEAN, not to be part of ASEAN, to be a partner of ASEAN, and we trying to reduce the tensions and trying to get back the normal in terms of security problems in South China Sea. Okay, this is the attempt by China. Okay, for example, 1995, China seized the two island, which is the Misri and Susaboro Shoal, which is located near Philippines. It actually creating a new threat towards ASEAN as well as Philippines. And then 1996, he started the threats against Taiwan, also along the coast of the South China Sea. And 97, China occupied Vietnam gas field. Okay, this is one some of the reason why we actually feel that if we don't get connected with China, we might get a lot of problems. Okay, China is the biggest military state. It's hard for us to compete. For example, it's hard for Vietnam straight away go and create problems with China. They might lose. So we trying to use ASEAN as an organization, trying to consultations and give some assistance and give some advice that will trying to feel to get China reduce their tension in the South China Sea. Okay, but still until now this issue become rising and rising, and then no, not actually in ASEAN and also China will find a good solution, and this issue being brought out to ICJ, and until now ICJ or UN prohibited any development in the Miss Reef and also Sabugor Shoal by the China itself, although China already make military base in Shoal Island, but we trying to use our comprehensive or cooperative security strategy, trying to negotiate with China as long as ASEAN and China get win-win situation in terms of this issue. Okay, next, smoke crisis. Smoke crisis causes strains. Okay, it having every year. You know, this year also we might affected. Uh, uh, it is a yeah, it's hard for us to overcome this issue because it reflected on ASEAN itself. For example, we have good relationship with Indonesia. Indonesia creating a lot of things that that indirectly affected Malaysia. For example, one is smoke crisis. So it is an environment problem. It is caused border pollutions. Tested the diplomatic skill of the leader. For example, Malaysia and Singapore. A blunt criticism to Indonesia, and the way this issue was handled, the ASEAN way had failed to respond promptly and also cohesively. So ASEAN not prepared to address non-traditional security. So most of the scholars says that ASEAN only addressed the traditional threats, but in terms of non-traditional threat, we can't settle, for example. But yet, the way of ASEAN, if let's say we are having a smoke crisis, so we give an assistance to Indonesia to settle the open burning or the fire. We send our support groups, for example, the firearms, you know, the security to help to overcome the smoke, the fire crisis in Indonesia. But yet, one of my opinion, until when we still need to give assistance. For example, every year this issue affected Malaysia as well as the neighbor. But until now, they did don't have any good constructive solutions. You know, still Indonesia do the same thing every year, and we might affected the same thing every year. So need to have a mutual understanding agreement, or in terms of mutual benefit constructive resolutions in terms of this issue. So this is not a new issue, it's a prolonged issue until now. Still Malaysia can in ASEAN itself, they can't actually find a good solution to prohibit this issue. Okay, currency crisis in 1987, it occurs because of Soros, the speculations of money and currency in terms that lead to a lot of state bankrupt, for example, and Southeast Asia affected also, Malaysia as well. Instead of standing up as a pillar economy, ASEAN members sought to protect national interests. Okay, so when this issue happens, so most of the ASEAN state, as they don't look this issue as an ASEAN. They look this issue as an nation state. For example, Singapore trying to protect Singapore economy. They don't care of others' economy. For example, Thailand also they feel that they have to recover their economic factor. But they did not actually talk as an ASEAN. They talk as an state interest. So in terms of the solution, a lot of issues that happen. Some of the state in Southeast Asia feel that IMF is a good strategy to overcome this issue, and Malaysia don't feel like IMF is a good strategy. We're trying to get ASEAN fund and being proposed by Malaysia also. And then a lot of things happen, for example, in terms of these issues. And at last, Thailand, Indonesia, they go for IMF, but Malaysia proposed ASEAN fund that actually give a good benefit to us lah, rather than Thailand and Indonesia. Okay, so the decisions in terms of to settle the issues in currency crisis also reflected the ASEAN way strategy. So is it we actually in ASEAN are really as one, as our motto mentions, ASEAN's one for ASEAN, ASEAN for one, but or just it is a rhetoric, slogan that just want to. But in the end, no, if let's say some dispute happen, so we can settle it by an organization. We actually avoid ASEAN and just be your just wanted to settle the dispute uh, inclusively. Okay, don't want to engage with ASEAN. So this is some of the reasons, some of the issues that actually make the ASEAN way. Is it a good way or a rhetoric way? With conclusions, even through skeptic criticization, ASEAN way has limitations and still remain until now. So this principle has been successfully implemented, adopting and so practiced in many situations. And is it true? So let's see the next chapter. It's about the ASEAN way, the reality. Just now we just highlight the rhetoric. Now we highlighting the reality. So able to explain ASEAN member using the ASEAN way guideline in dealing various issues in organization. So the ASEAN way, the reality. So we'll include we continue discussing this slide by seeing the decision making, conflict management, constructive engagement within US and also North Korea, and also informal security approach and non-interference policy itself. Okay, the decision making, consultations and consultation. For example, Myanmar ambition, it also causes difficult in reaching the consensus. Philippines and Thailand wanted ASEAN to go slow. Singapore had reservations in terms of asking Myanmar to join. However, consensus was reached and ASEAN become better to engage Myanmar, and it is a constructive engagement. This is the plus side. Why we actually ask Myanmar to join to be part of ASEAN. The first is more collective bargaining power. We will have our more strong in terms of decision making. And then it actually highlight our regional identity, which is the Southeast Asia. Source of ASEAN 6, in terms of economic scale, as I said before, and labor cross border, and in terms of the sub-regional growth zone. Okay, so it help to create a good new market and economic environment in ASEAN. So it's a single regional market to counter China influence. Okay, second, manage conflict. Okay, proven successful in avoiding conflict. So adherence of TAC, Treaty Amity Cooperation. So it is a safeguard to ASEAN unity and also security while asking Myanmar to join. So Myanmar is part also located just beside the South China Sea. So it will help us to be buffer and also to protect the South China Sea along with all of the members from the China threats. Okay, the three strategy that being implemented, the confidence building measures, preventive diplomacy, and also elaborating approach to conflict. So ARF is a counter-terrorism and also various bilateral and also multilateral discussion. So we're trying to use ARF in terms of conflict management. If anything happen in terms of issues, try to settle it in a peaceful way. And also intelligence sharing among ASEAN members, especially among Malaysia, Philippines, and also Indonesia is good for us. Okay, this is the constructive engagement with US and also North Korea. So we have US ASEAN joint declaration for cooperation to combat international terrorism, and it actually balance the sensitivity towards any encouragements of national security. We also have ASEAN China, we have ASEAN US, so it means that we actually don't rely in one bigger superpower. We're trying to get a lot of cooperations throughout the superpower. By doing that, so it can actually give ASEAN is as a natural organization, and it balance the sensitivity towards any encouragement of national security. Okay, and upon of our bilateral between US ASEAN, so we are really wanted to combat terrorism, one of the biggest issue. So it effort, commitment and effort to combat regional terrorism. We are having a lot of issues, as for example, Malaysia is a transit for terrorism. Indonesia and Philippines, they have a lot of island that terrorism can hide. For example, Abu Sayyaf, MINLF, Moro National Liberation Fund, the 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 subversive people, the subversive group. Okay, so associating with others to fight international terrorism, complying with UN resolution and also declarations to support war against terrorism. It is an important turning point to us. Okay, so we brought North Korea into RF on 2010, one of the biggest victory for ASEAN, because North Korea uh, is one of the biggest military state and a communist state that don't trust any international organizations. For example, they feel that international organization might actually bring the democracy to their state, but yet by the non-interference policies being adopted by ASEAN, so North Korea feel that it is safe to join the ASEAN Regional Forum in 2010. So ASEAN role to its occasion in this matter. So you can see that the ASEAN way actually had a lot of good things towards ASEAN, but in other way, they still have some problem that might occur, then feel a bit difficult to us to settle it, but we try to negotiate and promote and try to find a new strategy that actually can benefit all of ASEAN member. Okay, informal security approach towards the Spratly Island. Okay, for example, ASEAN had an informal security approach between issues that happen between China and most of ASEAN state in South China Sea. ASEAN extend its dispute settlement mechanism to China. And China agreed to shift the dispute, propose a peaceful resolution in dialogue, consultation, and so peaceful settlement. And also, it developed CBM, conflict building measures, in both in for ASEAN itself as well as China, and succeed to bring in China and work multilateral itself is a success. And the conclusion, so ASEAN Way is a unique mode, okay, of interactions that exists between a member of ASEAN. So it is a badge that ASEAN state wear, so to indicate uniformity and the ASEAN Way manage its security issues. So to make ASEAN Way is a guideline that has been adopted to keep them united. So may have to discourage at times, but it is a useful rhetoric. So the consensus, decision making, quiet diplomacy, and also confidence building CBM, confidence building measures, and a strict adherence to the principle of non-interference policy have contributed to the ASEAN success story. So we can consider that ASEAN is a diplomatic community that actually trying to settle all the dispute that occurs that in creating a good balance, peaceful environment, and also security environment in ASEAN. So that's all for this chapter. Later we have another video. So I'm gonna touch on the Cambodia conflict a bit in terms of security upheaval, conflict that happened in ASEAN. So stay tuned for the next video. This is volume 1. Next video will be volume 2. Terima kasih and Assalamualaikum.